The galactic confluence had never lost a scout fleet before. Not once, in 400 years of interstellar expansion, had Commander Rykos Varn failed to return with data. He had mapped the gas giants of the Orion Arm. He had catalogued the dead civilizations of the Rim. He had flown through the radiation belts of neutron stars and emerged with his hull singing and his logs intact. 50 ships. The finest sensor arrays the confluence could build. Crews of 6, each hand-selected. He had taken them into human space with the calm certainty of a predator who has never once been prey. That certainty lasted exactly 9 standard days. The first ship vanished without a broadcast. Peculiar, Rykos noted in his log. Scout 17 was skippered by Leth Korin, a veteran of 30 campaigns. Equipment failure was unlikely. He flagged it and continued. The second ship vanished 6 hours later. This time, there was a half-second of static before silence, the sound of a communications array being sheared away mid-transmission. Concerning. Rykos pulled his formation tighter and reduced their active sensor signatures. Whatever was out here, he did not wish to announce himself. The third, fourth, and fifth ships disappeared within the same rotation. No transmissions. No debris. The confluence's finest vessels, erased from existence like chalk marks in rain. By the time Ship 23 went silent, Rykos Varn, commander, veteran, cartographer of dead civilizations, permitted himself one honest thought. We have made a terrible mistake. The humans had been dismissed by the confluence for decades. They were young by galactic standards, barely 4 centuries into space travel. Their biology was inexplicable, warm-blooded, high-metabolic, absurdly fragile in vacuum yet surviving conditions that should have killed them. Their politics were chaotic. Their history was a long, unbroken chronicle of violence against themselves. When they had first made contact with the confluence, the diplomatic assessment had read, promising but primitive. Recommend observation and minimal engagement. The humans had smiled at the confluence ambassadors, offered food, and asked approximately 10,000 questions in under an hour. The confluence had found them exhausting. When humanity began claiming the space between the Kepler reaches and the Vega corridor, a vast, resource-rich corridor the confluence had earmarked for future expansion, the response had been bureaucratic contempt. A survey fleet, 50 ships, to assess exactly how primitive the human defenses truly were. Observe. Catalog. Return. Simple. Ship 41 was the first to broadcast something coherent before dying. 3 words, on an open channel, raw and unencrypted. They're everywhere. God. Then silence. Rykos had 19 ships left. He called his remaining captains to a tight beam conference. Their faces in the holographic array were the faces of professionals who had stopped pretending to be calm. They are not using conventional weapons, said Captain Saramvun, her secondary eyes wide. There is no energy discharge. No kinetic signature. Whatever is destroying our ships, it is doing so without any method we recognize. We cannot detect them, said another captain, Doros Pell. Our sensors are finding nothing. Clean space, in every direction. And then, he made a gesture that communicated, in any language, and then nothing. Rykos studied the star charts. They were deep in the Kepler reaches now, having advanced on their survey pattern for 9 days. Retreat would take 4 days at maximum drive. 4 days, through whatever was hunting them. We turn around, he said. Maximum drive. Full electromagnetic silence. We run. They ran. 14 more ships died on the way out. The last survivor of the 50-ship fleet was scout vessel Pale Theorem, commanded by Sub-Captain Jory Yin, a young officer on her second deep space assignment. She had survived by accident more than skill. Her ship had suffered a navigation malfunction that placed her 3 light hours behind the main formation, and whatever had hunted the others seemed to follow density, attacking concentrated groups first. She watched 49 ships disappear from her sensor logs over 9 days. She watched the formation pull back. She watched them die, one by one, as they retreated. When the last ship vanished and the sensor board showed nothing but clean, empty space, Jory Yin sat in her command chair for a very long time. Then she recorded a single-word broadcast on every frequency the Pale theorem possessed: military bands, civilian bands, emergency channels, frequencies the confluence used that humanity wasn't supposed to know about. One word. Flee. She transmitted it on a loop and pointed her ship toward confluence space at maximum drive. She never stopped transmitting. The broadcast reached the confluence Admiralty 7 weeks later. It caused, in the precise clinical language of the official record, significant strategic reassessment. It caused, in the language of every officer who heard it, pure and absolute terror. What Rykos Varn's fleet had not known, what the confluence's contemptuous assessment of humanity had failed to account for, was that humanity had been watching them approach for 3 weeks before the first ship disappeared. Admiral Darian Voss had known the confluence was coming. Not because humanity's sensors were better. They weren't, not yet. But because humans had been fighting each other for all of recorded history, and one of the first things you learn when you have spent 10,000 years in conflict with your own kind is how to read intention from movement patterns. When 50 confluence vessels began a systematic survey approach along a vector that terminated at humanity's core systems, Darian Voss had looked at the data for approximately 40 seconds and said, to her assembled staff, "They're sizing us up. They think we don't know." She had paused. Good. Admiral Darian Voss was 61 years old. She had steel-gray hair cut short, a scar along her jaw from a shipboard accident 20 years prior, and a reputation in the human Federated Fleet as the most patient and the most dangerous officer alive. She had spent 3 years as a strategic planner before moving to field command. She thought in timeframes that made her junior officers uncomfortable. When the Confluence fleet entered what the humans had quietly, without announcement, begun calling the Reach Defense Zone, Admiral Voss did not scramble her ships. She waited. Let them come, she told her captains, gathered in the Fleet Command holosphere aboard the Unbroken Shore. Let them get deep. Let them feel certain. Her captains were silent. We are not fighting a battle, Voss continued. We are sending a message. The Confluence thinks humanity is a footnote. After today, we will be a chapter. Possibly the last chapter they ever choose to write about us. A thin, cold smile. Weapons free on my mark, captains. Drone screen 1 deploys silent. I want no energy signatures until they are already inside the net. Humanity had, in the 400 years since reaching space, never stopped doing the thing it had always done, preparing for the fight they hoped would never come. The Reach Defense Zone was not a border. It was a carefully maintained, meticulously camouflaged killing field, drone platforms built into asteroid bodies, stealth-capable autonomous hunter units running dark for years at a time, waiting for the specific activation signal that only Admiral Voss carried. The Confluence's finest sensor technology couldn't find them because the humans had designed them to be found only when they chose to be found. Jory Yin had been right. They were everywhere. When the last Confluence vessel crossed the threshold, Voss said one word. Mark. The Reach Defense Zone woke up. It was not, in the traditional sense, a battle. A battle implies two sides actively contesting space. What occurred in the Kepler reaches over the next 9 days was a systematic, methodical, almost surgical demonstration. 49 ships, removed from the board with quiet efficiency. Voss monitored every contact report from the Unbroken Shore, her expression unchanging. Her staff watched her watching the board. She had a coffee, real coffee, a luxury on a fleet flagship, and she drank it slowly as the Confluence fleet died. When her intelligence officer reported that the last surviving contact had reversed course and was broadcasting on all frequencies, Voss set down her cup. Let it go, she said. Her tactical officer looked up. "Admiral? Let it go." She nodded toward the sensor board. "That ship is our message." She folded her hands. The confluence has 400 years of expansion behind them. They've never had to reconsider. They've never been made to feel small. She looked at the star chart, at the vast dark space between humanity's worlds and the confluence's nearest systems. That ship will reach them in 7 weeks. And for 7 weeks, their lone survivor will transmit one word, on every frequency, to everyone who will listen. She allowed herself one long, slow exhale. By the time the Confluence Admiralty decides what to do, every species in the Confluence will already know that humanity said, "Come and find out," and 50 of their finest ships found out. Silence in the command room. Then her navigation officer, quietly, "And if they come back? With more?" Admiral Darian Voss picked up her coffee. "Then we'll be ready," she said. "We're always ready. That's the thing they haven't understood yet." She looked at the stars. "We've been ready for a very long time." 7 weeks later, in the Confluence Admiralty, a single looping broadcast arrived from the edge of human space. Every screen. Every frequency. One word over and over. "Flee." The debate that followed lasted 4 days. The vote was unanimous. They did.